Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Con. I am Lauren. Good to see you all. So we're happy to be here with Thierry and Veronica to share more about the FAST-Infra Label with you. Con gave some great context, but I wanted to give a little bit more about what we're talking about. As private investment in infrastructure has grown over the last decade, so too have we seen the desire grow from institutional investors, asset managers, and banks around the globe to measure and have greater confidence in the impact of these assets. So the FAST-Infra Label, which is an effort and a coalition of more than 200 organizations across infrastructure investment, have come together with a common objective to create a credible, consistent, and globally applicable labeling system designed to empower investors to identify and to evaluate the sustainability and resilience performance of infrastructure projects around the world. We're going to tell you much more about it today, but that's the short version. I'm delighted to have Thierry Déau, Meridiam's Chair and Chief Executive Officer, and Veronica Scotti, Group Managing Director, Chairperson, Swiss Re, Public Sector Solutions, with me today to tell you much more about this and about the label's launch and what it's going to mean for the future of sustainable infrastructure. Thierry, Meridiam is an independent investment benefit corporation focused on developing, financing, managing long-term sustainable infrastructure projects. But here we really want to talk to you about your role as the chair of the FAST-Infra Group. And then Veronica is going to bring the perspective of being board member of Global Infrastructure Basel Foundation, Secretariat of the FAST-Infra Label. So no better experts to really help me launch this for all of you today. Thierry, I want to give you a basic but important question first. What is sustainable infrastructure?
Big question. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me here today. Basically, infrastructure today accounts for about 70% of global emissions. And basically, as we're going into a low-carbon economy, a low-carbon world, despite everything happening nowadays, we do need to focus on making infrastructure more sustainable and really comply with strict sustainability criteria. So this is all about decarbonizing infrastructure and making sure we build new infrastructure really based on very strict sustainability criteria and resilience criteria. So this whole initiative, which is the FAST-Infra, is for finance to accelerate sustainable infrastructure, or the sustainable transition in infrastructure, which is a bit more complex, but it took us about 5 days to find this name. And it's been really a public-private partnership into really building a market-based solution, because it was important for us to really come from what the market is seeing, because the whole purpose is to mobilize capital, and especially this started under the sort of auspices of the One Planet Summit, with a big goal about how to mobilize capital into emerging markets that need it quite a lot, but not only. And really, it's making sustainable infrastructure an asset class that is easily investable for investors, so they can mobilize quite a lot of capital. I mean, just a quick background. I mean, infrastructure projects, they tend to not come to fruition because of a long preparation, the complexity of the processes, the complexity of the analysis and the due diligence, especially in relation to environmental issues, resilience issues. So therefore, this label is here to support investors, but also governments, because it's not just, it's a two-way street. Governments in terms of preparing their projects, and for investors to make it easier for investors and lenders to really participate in this infrastructure.
You mentioned how challenging it is to bring some of these projects to fruition, but I don't know the audience understands exactly how challenging it is. Around 80% of infrastructure projects never reach financial closure. And so we layer that on top of the challenges we're seeing with climate change, with infrastructure needs. It becomes a really significant challenge. So Veronica, why are you, in your role with Swiss Re, with Global Infrastructure Basel Foundation, why are you focused on this issue? Why is a reinsurer focused on resilient infrastructure?
It's exactly what you said. We're looking at a 15 trillion gap. So this is the infrastructure that is needed for us to carry out all the economic development activities, all the prosperity, all the growth we are seeking around the world. But 80% of that is simply not happening. And it's because there is lack of confidence, because we don't have a common taxonomy, because we don't trust each other. So the risk premium when these projects come to market is very high, to the point of unaffordability, and the standards are not harmonized. And as you know, capital markets are most efficient when they can move from one risk opportunity, from one project opportunity to the other swiftly. That's where, the Bloomberg terminals really made a big difference, this ability to really take quickly decision, have correct, fast, and accurate information for decision making. The FAST-Infra Label is really seeking to address this gap. It's about demand and supply meeting in a more consistent way, with the confidence that when the money flows, the project will actually deliver as expected. And as an reinsurance company, we've been around for 160 years. We're the largest provider of actually capacity, so risk protection for infrastructure projects around the world. 17,000, just last year of new projects covered across all sorts of infrastructure classes. And we know that there is a role to play in building this confidence. That's actually what insurance does. You know that by buying insurance, you're protecting, if anything goes wrong, from the project launch and preparation to the infrastructure actually becoming operational. And this can span, decades, actually. Thierry invests in these spaces, I think, even 40, 50 years, sometimes longer. So there is a need to really think long-term about the usability, the fruitability, and as Thierry said, the sustainability of these infrastructures economically, for sure, that's what financiers normally look at, but also their resilience to various shocks, their impact on the environment in which they're being established and integrated. So the community, the environmental and natural impact. With this label, all of these aspects are being captured systematically, and therefore, we have the benefit of much higher transparency, much better understanding and insights in this risk, much better project preparation. So I guess our joint ambition and vision here is that by adopting consistently between project preparation, project financing, project operationalization, project insuring, we can accelerate the ability of this project to go to market in a cost-efficient way and bringing economic development anywhere around the world.
Thierry, you mentioned that the FAST-Infra initiative came out of the One Planet Summit. How has it evolved since then?
I mean, it's been 3 years of hard work and a great team, by the way, with a lot of people coming into Bloomberg, obviously, the Global Infrastructure Basels, really focusing on the label and a great team, because it's been, building the sort of portal, building an application portal is hard work. And we have to do a lot of testing, really a number of criteria have to be set, environmental, resilience. Actually, I should commend the insurance industry because, they started a long time ago worrying about physical risk on infrastructure due to climate. And that's how, we've been in this business for quite a long time. And so it's been nearly a number of projects in 16 countries around the world that have been tested. A number of the participants have brought their own project to test it, to see how the label is actually faring. We've also had a number of discussions with Blue Network label to really harmonize our approaches to this. So the OECD has been also at the inception of Fast Infra. So it's really melting everybody's sort of skills, competences, and energy into trying to do something market-based, very practical, that is user-friendly for investors and lenders. And I think we try to keep that goal. It can't be some sort of fuzzy regulation coming out of nowhere. It really has to be market adopted.
And Veronica, why is today's launch so significant? What does it mean for the market?
It's extremely important because it is the first step towards realizing the potential of the label. I mentioned before the importance of sustainability in the work we do and I'm glad that Thierry acknowledges. So Swiss Re is really heavily committed to any sustainability in anything we do is part of our business, but we're not the only company. So this is notwithstanding, the little jittery of the last few weeks. I really believe this is a secular trend. It's the way the economies, the investments are going to happen in the future. And many people need to see the delta value of putting money in projects that have this kind of label. So the label is there, as was said before, with the verification process, we're creating a whole ecosystem that builds confidence in doing things the right way without sacrificing anything else. So I think it's momentous because it is part of an extensive consultation where practitioners were asked, what do you need to invest more in this space? What do you need to mobilize more capital from an insurance or reinsurance perspective? So we feel very vested, and we can integrate the label categories, the principles in our ESG assessments, which go fundamentally across anything we do. So you can see if we all adopted it as part of our business as usual, we can really unlock the potential of infrastructure investments around the world. And I think we will see a very fast mobilization. Thierry last year was like 4 projects being assessed. This year we're looking already at 60. It will go exponentially.
If I can add, in a very practical way, when you see that in many countries half of the territory is not insurable, you can't insure your infrastructure. A lot of that has to do with not enough preparation and anticipation of what resilience would mean for this infrastructure, these homes and the others. So with fires, floods, extreme events coming, and I guess now we cannot deny that they will be very frequent, really assessing this resilience is quite important because insurability of assets is one key thing for people's protection and people's protection of the assets, and it's very real. And then we see it now.
We're going to swap chairs, so I'm going to do the investor talk now. So he's absolutely right. Mia Motley said, insurability is a condition to bankability. That's true. And in fact, I will just bring also to your attention, Lauren, that the insurance industry is actually one of the largest long-term investors. So we have a very natural alignment between our capital and desire of returns and the duration of infrastructure projects. We just cannot find enough good projects that are at the level of preparation that Thierry referred to. So it is, I think it's a really exciting opportunity because we can get diversification geographically, type of exposures, etc., if we can make this label really stick around and gain momentum.
Tell us a little bit more about who you want to use this label. I know we've talked so much about insurers already, but who are your ideal users? How can they be practically using it, Thierry?
Everyone. It's all about adoption because you want to make it a standard so the market, and that's how you make an asset class. And it's really the goal. So all the practitioners of infrastructure, whether they are developers, whether they're government, whether they are lenders to those projects, whether they are investors in those projects, it's really to make something sort of holistic in terms of, and very simple at the end of the day. It's very complex behind, but very simple usage for people to really adopt it. And as we go and there's adoption across the market, then this will actually be accelerating investment because it makes it more accessible for investors. Because investors and lenders to really go into infrastructure need this thing to be ready. As Veronica was saying, infrastructure projects tend to not be sort of investable because of all of these issues. So making this possible and making everybody adopt it is very, very key.
And please, Veronica.
I want to build on this. It is a true broad ecosystem, and with verification and project preparation, you can see that this is also, in and of itself, a propeller of economic activities. So it goes into a higher qualification type of job, etc. When we all speak the same language, when we have ease of reference, we're opening markets to non-specialists as well. You need to be really technically very savvy to be an infrastructure investor today. Some very large investment funds like Thierry's and of course big pension funds have dedicated desks, but that's not what everyone can afford. So by creating a standard we're creating a common language and accessibility that today does not exist. And hopefully, you know, with the platform that the Bloomberg is supporting, that is multiplied in its velocity.
And to make this very, very practical, it's turning the language of sustainability into something very concrete, very related to the risk and the risk premium that is attached to those projects, beyond the sort of moral aspiration that people want to see in it. And I think it's very important to integrate this into the market as some basic product in a way. And so that's really the goal.
Veronica, why is this a good moment for the launch of the label?
Well, because we have a 15 trillion gap and opportunity. I think it is, we've invested so much in this consultation to make sure that everyone's perspective was included, that the label would be effective, practical. We have now with this partnership with Bloomberg this ability to really reach the masses. I think it is the perfect moment. We need an economic model of development that is, you know, profitable, that is sustainable, that is bringing growth in parts of the world that is today hampered because infrastructure investments are not being made. So I think there isn't a better moment than now. It cannot be tomorrow. It has to be now. Good
news, it's today.
Yeah.
Thierry, what is the future of the FAST-Infra Label?
Three things: adoption, adoption, adoption. So, no, really, it's ramping up the adoption is the most important things. As I said, we really want to reach market size, and so the more people adopt it, so that's what I do every day. Every time I meet another investor, I say you should adopt the FAST-Infra Label, bring your project, get tested, and that's really the goal. That's the future of the label. In the next 3 months, I think we want to be all over the market.
Veronica, what do you want to see now that this is out in the world, as people are starting to use it, the feedback? What are you hoping to see from
I want everyone to ignore where FASTA comes from, but just use it. Use the label, use the reference. While it took a little bit of time to come up with the acronym, it wanted to really create this sense of dynamism. So I think 2025 has to be the year of fast movement.
Mm-hmm. And Thierry, if there's a couple of key takeaways you want people to leave this conversation from, knowing about the label, what would that be?
The easiest way to make your investment in sustainable infrastructure. And this label really helps you speak the same language. And I think that's some of the key takeaways.
Veronica, same question to you. What are your big takeaways for everyone about the label?
I think it's alignment. It's alignment and confidence. Everyone that adopts this label can trust that the projects you're going to put the money, you're going to ensure you're going to be operating are good projects, as good as today the market offers us to, to subscribe.